We're never ever saying we should take away their rights forever and that they shouldn't have guns. We're saying, let's take a pause here.
No longer can election officials say, I'm not really an IT person, I don't really understand it.
If a mainstream political party wants the votes of a killer, it will come back to haunt every single Pakistani.
The deadliest wildfires to hit Greece in more than a decade have killed at least 74 people and injured more than 180. Fires broke out Monday in towns outside of Athens already hit by a heat wave and drought. 50-mile-per-hour winds helped the fires spread quickly.
Με αποτέλεσμα, οι κάτοικοι και οι επισκέπτες της περιοχής να μην προλάβουν να διαφύγουν, ενώ βρίσκονταν λίγα μέτρα από τη θάλασσα ή μέσα στα σπίτια τους, στα αυτοκίνητά τους.
American air carriers have until tomorrow to rename Taiwan as China Taiwan on their websites. In order to meet a deadline set by Beijing, China's aviation authority demanded that dozens of airlines respect the country's One China policy. Most have complied, but Delta, American, and United are still selling flights to simply Taiwan. It's unclear how the airlines might be punished, but Beijing's foreign ministry says the demand is non-negotiable. Farmers protesting a proposed EU budget put the Tour de France on pause this morning after driving tractors onto the route and dropping bales of hay. Police used tear gas to disperse the crowd, but that only delayed the race, as some of the tear gas blew into the cyclists' eyes. Jason Kessler, the organizer of last year's deadly white nationalist rally in Charlottesville, has withdrawn his lawsuit petitioning the city to let him hold an anniversary rally this year. Ivanka Trump's fashion brand is closing shop. The president's daughter says her focus is now on her work in Washington. Since her father won office, Ivanka's brand faced boycott calls and was dropped by several department stores. Turns out, a celebrity endorsement will only get you so far.
30
Go
seconds.
buy Ivanka's stuff is what I would tell you. I hate shopping. I'm gonna go get some on myself today.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. This is a very important day for the people of Illinois.
Illinois Governor Bruce Rauner signed a bill on July 16th that enacted a so-called red flag law that allows police to take guns away from someone a court decides is a potential danger. New York is trying to follow suit. It would be the 14th state with a red flag law. Washington was one of the first. And officers there are already doing the difficult work of identifying people who might be threats.
So that's the bad one, right? That's the bad gun?
In late May, the Seattle police broke down Brian Smith's door and confiscated all of his guns. They were able to do that because of a new Washington state law that lets police seize firearms from people deemed unfit to keep them. It's called an Extreme Risk Protection Order, or ERPO. In Seattle, the final decision about when to ERPO someone has to come from a judge. But it all starts with Sergeant Eric Piskonski and the officers in his crisis response unit.
The way the process works is, we fill out that affidavit, we petition the court, we get a temporary order, we go serve that temporary order. Part of that service is, hey, you have a court date in 14 days, right? So that the respondent gets their opportunity to go to court in front of a judge and give their side of it.
You're describing a very rational, reasonable process on a subject that really does not have a lot of rational, reasonable discourse these days.
I think the process that's in place right now, at least the one that we have here in Washington, so far it's worked out pretty well.
Since the law went into effect last year, Seattle police have considered about 5,000 cases for possible gun removal. So far, they've moved forward with 30 of them.
If I think of anything else, I'll give you a call. Okay, thanks. Bye. Currently, I have 2 extreme risk protection order cases. One involving a gentleman who inherited a bunch of money and decided to purchase a bunch of firearms.
That gentleman is Brian Smith, whose guns were confiscated back in May. His neighbors reported feeling unsafe around him.
It all started when he consumed a whole bunch of alcohol, started firing off rounds at crows and stuff like that. So it was posing a little bit of danger to his neighbors. So we petitioned for a extreme risk protection order to take his firearms away.
Now, Officer Chan is trying to convince a judge to let the police keep Smith's guns for the full year allowed by the law.
Mr. Smith has been served. He did not show today, so that it's helpful to the next court to know what the status is. Okay, I've signed the order reissuing the temporary extreme risk protection order for 2 more weeks.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Because Smith didn't show, the ERPO was extended. News Chan had to deliver in a summons.
So I looked in the back, I didn't see his truck.
Okay. I'm just gonna drive around to 85th. Yeah. So 2 houses down, 8248 is Brian Smith. I've been working on an ERPO on him since May. You guys have taken 1 gun off of him. I took 7 off of him, and the case just keeps getting continued. Oh, there he is, hold on. He's right in the back.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Smith was home when the police arrived, and they served him the papers.
I'm glad that worked out.
Mr. Smith. How are you? I'm Josh.
How are you?
Nice to meet you.
It's Captain.
Captain? How you doing, Captain Smith?
Hi, John.
So they took some guns from you, is that right?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I thought that was kind of snotty because I haven't been accused of anything yet.
Yeah. Do you know about this new law that allows them to do this?
Yeah, the extreme risk protection order.
Yeah. Do you think that you qualify for that?
Risk to who? Whom? You? You?
Yeah.
I think there was no victim. Let me get a... See, I'm drinking alcohol. I've got guns. There was a Thompson Center 54 caliber muzzleloader here. 38 Special Lady Smiths was in the bedroom, so I have access to it in a case. He unloaded that, took it, and then he took all the cartridges in there. Well, I'm 57 years old. I've never threatened anyone in my life. I've never assaulted anyone. I've never been charged with that. I've never threatened to kill myself. I've had firearms since 1977. I've never hurt anybody with them. I mean, what is the standard?
This isn't Smith's first run-in with the law. This competency assessment in a separate criminal case found him to exhibit a number of symptoms of mental illness and alcoholism. Smith refutes the findings.
He writes the evaluation. He goes, "Oh, Mr. Smith is an alcoholic. He's deluded, grandiose, whatever it is." He just slams me because I think he was mad because I was in control of the interview because I'm smarter. It was incredible to me that they could just decide they're going to use this new law against a citizen of the United States with constitutional rights with no justification.
Earlier this month, a judge granted the full-year ERPO against Smith. Smith's mental state wasn't central to the ERPO order, but mental health advocates say they worry the new law could be used to strip the mentally ill of their constitutional rights.
We have concerns that unfairly stigmatize mental illness. Laws that use a mental illness diagnosis as a reason to affect people's rights.
So just being diagnosed as depressed or even schizophrenic shouldn't be grounds for somebody to lose any rights, effectively.
Yeah, the diagnosis on its own should not be grounds if it's completely separate from a person's behavior. Because he may appear a little different to you doesn't itself mean that he is a threat.
We're never ever saying we should take away their rights forever and that they shouldn't have guns for the rest of their life. We're saying let's take a pause here and breath and see if you are, mentally okay to have a gun.
Just as a practical matter, right? You're a cop and you're encountering people who you can see that they pose a danger, but without this tool, what are you going to do?
It's what we did before, just kind of monitor people.
Sit around and wait.
Yeah. Wait to see what happens.
But potentially wait for something terrible to happen too.
Potentially, yes. So it does make me sleep better at night.
There are just 105 days until the midterm elections, and the federal government isn't confident that our election infrastructure is safe for manipulation. A hearing today in the House of Representatives devolved into partisan bickering. But the states aren't waiting for Congress to get its act together, because they can't afford to.
A Holiday Inn in Morgantown, West Virginia, isn't quite where you'd imagine some of the nation's most advanced election cybersecurity preparations are taking place. But it's where most of the state's 55 county clerks gathered this week for briefings from the Department of Homeland Security and the West Virginia Secretary of State's office on how to shore up their election systems against cyber attacks.
You are the cybersecurity official in your office. You're responsible for setting the tone. No longer can election officials say, I'm not really an IT person, I don't really understand it. That's not an option for you anymore.
West Virginia is one of the leading states in the nation when it comes to this stuff. This week, they're running an election simulation at the hotel, so clerks can practice how to respond in case of an attack. It's the first of its kind hosted by a state government in the nation. And the Secretary of State, Mac Warner, has held multiple election security briefings for local officials.
This is a race that doesn't have a finish line. We just always have to stay a step ahead of our adversaries, and that's what we're doing here in West Virginia.
So you're sort of preparing to be hacked, basically.
I think everybody is.
Have you gotten any indication that we're going to see the same sort of cyber attacks that we saw in 2016?
We are seeing it on a routine basis.
Is that from Russia? Is that from multiple nations? I mean, what are those?
All of the above, yes.
All of the above.
Yes.
What do those intrusions look like?
It's penetration attempts, okay? They get inside our cyber arena, but they may not go and actually start downloading information. They gather passwords so they know how to download information from the voter registration system, and then right before an election, do that massive download and put it out to the world or whatever.
West Virginia may be ahead of the nation, but what the county clerks are learning here this week is more basic than you might expect.
Spear phishing advice. The first is just read where an email's coming from. Understand, is it something you recognize? Some of you, I'm sure, are running some operating systems that are no longer supported by Microsoft. That's asking for a vulnerability or asking for an issue.
A lot of this is new for these local election officials, though. How much does your staff concern you? Like, do you have to train them? Are you worried about what mistakes they might make?
Well, it's a concern that we haven't been changing passwords all along. You know, you get that password and you're familiar with it, and you use it more, especially in voter registration, because we're all on a statewide system.
There should be federal money to help. Congress approved $380 million in new funding for the states to improve their election security. West Virginia got $3.6 million from that fund, and this week, counties will be able to apply for a piece of that. The bad news? A lot of states are far behind. Each one runs its own election system, and there's no national standard. So DHS is offering to help states evaluate their individual security systems and patch up holes as needed. What are the biggest challenges when you go into a state and you try to get them on board with some of the things that you ran through today?
I mean, I think it's largely an educational one, making sure they understand what the role of the Department of Homeland Security is. We don't run elections, they run elections. They understand what their voters need and what their systems are. Our role is to provide information and to provide support in the forms of free services to them.
Is some level of hacking inevitable?
So there's no such thing as perfectly secure, right? And that's why when we talk about securing the process, we don't talk just about protection, which is critically important, but also about detection and recovery. That's resilience and ensuring that the process can continue to run if there is an incident.
आप सबने निकलना है, लोगों को तैयार करना है, 25 जुलाई के लिए तैयार करना है।
Imran Khan is Pakistan's most famous politician. But up until now, he's had more success playing cricket than running for office. He's run for prime minister 3 times and lost each race. But he'll have his best shot this Wednesday, when Pakistan votes. To secure a win for his party, the PTI, he's been courting politicians known here as electables, candidates who command a large and loyal base. This time around, he's reaching out to a powerful political bloc that feels the government has failed them. The religious right.
वो पाकिस्तान बनाए जो कि हमारे फाउंडिंग फादर्स की विजन थी और विजन ये थी कि हम इसको एक इस्लामी फलाई रियासत बनाना चाहते थे.
I will be with Imran. He is the only man who don't have any choice yet, and other people don't have such ability and quality. At least he is an honest man.
Sheikh Rashid is an influential politician in the state of Punjab. He built his political career by defending Islam. Now, Khan needs his support to win.
Influential people in the end come with me when they know the poor people have gone with Sheikh Rashid. They have no option.
Rashid is bringing Khan the votes of his city's largest mosque.
बंदा चाहिए पाकिस्तान के अंदर कि जो इस्लाम का तहफ़्फ़ुज़ करे, पाकिस्तान का तहफ़्फ़ुज़ करे, अमन लाए, और ऐसा बंदा अहल पाकिस्तान के लिए कि जो पाकिस्तान के हकूक़ का तहफ़्फ़ुज़ करे, निज़ाम मुस्तफ़ा का तहफ़्फ़ुज़ करे.
Maulana Rizvi and his followers object to the government's decision to execute a religious activist who killed the state's governor.
जो तासीर था, उसने जो गुस्ताखाना या कुफ्रिया अल्फाज इस्तेमाल किए, तो मुमताज़ कादरी ने उन कुफ्रिया कलमात पर अपनी जान का नजराना पेश करके, इसलिए हर मुसलमान ये जान देने के लिए तैयार है.
My father died fighting against this mentality. So this is when my father came out of jail.
Shabazz Taseer is the son of the man that Qadri assassinated.
If a mainstream political party wants the votes of a killer, it will come back to haunt every single Pakistani, especially if that political party is now we're looking at and going to engineer its way through the next 5 years.
Taseer argues that in a rush to build a winning alliance, Khan is pandering to religious conservatism that could be dangerous. But it might just get him and his party elected.
It's this intolerant atmosphere that PTI has created for this election. It's basically to win, but what they don't understand is this hate will consume them.
Today, the Israeli military said it shot down a Syrian fighter jet that crossed into disputed territory. Assad's regime is fighting nearby for Syria's southwest, part of the last 15% of the country still held by the opposition. This month, the regime took back the city where the revolution first started, Dara. A 2017 ceasefire once protected Dara from regime airstrikes. Across the country, in other areas under the same agreement, families are watching anxiously.
Abu Mohammed lives in Kafr Halab in northwest Syria. This area is controlled by rebel groups, and they're expecting the Assad regime any day now.
القلق اللي عم ينتاب الجميع في المنطقة هو خوفنا من بعد ما ينتهوا من درعا ينداروا لعنا لهون. يلغوا المواثيق، يلغوا المعاهدات، يلغوا معاهدة خفض التصعيد. كل الشعوب تخلت عننا، بقيوا على هدول الأعداء لنا.
Last year's ceasefire was supposed to block the regime and its allies from fighting here. But by January, they carried out airstrikes nearby. So Abu Mohammed came up with a plan.
فترة بعد ما تم القصف عنا هون وصار القصف طبعا في باقي المدن، فكرنا بإقامة الملجأات اللي هو عبارة عن نحت ضمن الصخر. وهلا باعتبار الوضع ما في أي استقرار وهدول الروس لا لهم لا عهد ولا ذمة، صرنا نتخوف كثير من الطيران لأنه ما بنعرف شو جايينا في الأيام المقبلة. نزوح ما خرج ننزاح وأرضنا ما راح نتركها، فأما بنموت في أرضنا أو الله يستر. مين بدهم معي على الملجأ؟ أكيد؟
The entire family is relying on this shelter. Abu Mohammed and Mohammed hope to protect their 6 children and 5 grandchildren.
طفل يعني هلا اولادنا شفت دغري بنزلوا بركضوا لتحت الملجأ من وقت اللي بسمعوا صوتها انه بدها تضرب هون ما بدها تضرب الاطفال ركض بتنزل على الملجأ. فدائما حاطين اكل حاطين لبس. ما بنعرف انه كم نهار بنضل بالملجأ، يومين 3 10 ما بنعرف ايش بصير فيه.
تحميكم اكثر من البعيد من الطياره تضرب صاروخ بعدين بتموتكم. نحن حفرنا هاي لحتى نحميكم من خطر الطيران، لانه الطيران مش شو بضرب بقتل العالم بقتل البشر. مشان بكره بس تكبروا وتعرفوا ليش هي حفرناها، عشان نحافظ على سلامتكم وامانكم يا جدو.
What? Am I gonna have a bunch of people hating me after this?
She wanna fall, I might just lick it and take it and touch it and treat it like she was the blunt. I get in back of that body like I was never trying to be in the front. I know that it's never enough, but I'm putting the weight in the blunt and the 3 in the cup and I'm hoping you fuck.
Okay, let's start with something positive. I like the production, I like the chords, I like the track generally speaking. The instrumentation was really cool. The vocal sounded really pro and like feels like a hit. But this is one of those cases where I do start paying attention to the lyrics, and there's been some things said in the song that are just a little bit too direct for my taste. Too much vibrato. It had like an operatic feel to it that I don't think the music really needed personally. There's so many people who will really be into this kind of music, and I respect them for it, and I can understand it myself because I grew up with a lot of music that if I hear it today, I'm not sure why I loved it before. Unfortunately, the way I listen to music today is that I just digest everything and analyze everything that's going on, and that sometimes prevents me from liking a song that other people probably love.
I'm underwater and I'm on fire. There's nothing wilder than my heart.
I like it. It's very dreamy. I respect the craft production, and his vocals are great. It's really well done.
Won't be easy to get you off of my mind.
I think it was good. I think he's a good singer. The chords were really cool, very classic. You know, he was probably part of the ones who made it that other people now copy. I've had a phase where I made a certain type of genre and I was really into it, and I made the same thing 2, 3, 4 times, and then I want to do something new, and that's the moment when people are like, don't you think he should be making that same stuff that he got big for? So if you're loving that music, keep making that song.